Ragin review.
The Ragin Cajuns will be a source of pride for this university, for the alumni, fans, and donors as we achieve success in the classroom, in the competitive arena, and in the community.
It's about to get really fun.
We're looking for dudes that will stand up. Well, Coach, let me tell you today, I'm here and I'm ready to stand up. And I challenge you, Ragin Cajun Nation, to stand up with us. Stand up with us. Let's lock hand in hand and let's walk through the gates of Omaha.
Hey, I love y'all boys. Let's grind every day starting today. Let's do it. Y'all ready? Alert! Ready? Who's that team ready? Who's that team ready? That's up.
I got one thing to say right here. Cajuns win!
All right, Coach Hud, welcome back to Lafayette, Louisiana, Cajun country, former stomping grounds. How you been, man?
Hey, doing good. I tell you, life's good, family's good, enjoying a whole new chapter, I guess you should say, of life right now, and it's been a blessing. And so, right in the middle of the football season, and we're currently 3-0, ranked number 4 in the state, and 5A, and number 24 in the entire state. So we're making progress. Got a big game this week. Played the number 1 team in the state. If we can pull this one off, we'll be in pretty good shape.
The man just wins everywhere he goes. Let's jump into it, Coach. We got a bunch of questions and we want to protect your time. So we're going to start with this. I mean, since we last spoke, you made a few different stops in your career. And the guys and I, we talked before we did the recording, and we're mostly interested in that time at Austin Peay, because we felt like Austin Peay kind of mirrored what happened with UL and your coaching tenure here. Just interested in how that whole experience treated you and what you learned from that. And also, how was it, similar to your UL experience? And if it wasn't, how was it similar?
Very, very similar, I guess, going in. They were coming off, they were 1 season removed from having the longest losing streak in the country, 29 straight games. And then they finally broke through and won 5. And then we came in and was able to win 11 and go to the semifinals. But, a lot of the same things. Yeah, I felt like some pieces were in place. We just came in and reorganized the pieces. And we had a really good athletic director in Gerald Harrison. And just sort of the same way that Scott Farmer really helped me. And, he did a lot when I got there. And we were doing a lot with not very much. And we took a culture up at Austin Peay similar to what we did at UL. And really went hardcore discipline, toughness, and I still believe teams sort of take on the demeanor of their head coach. And we took the pieces we had and molded them and ended up turning the thing around. And I was really proud of what we was able to accomplish that year.
Yeah, Coach, and kind of bouncing off of that, when you came to Louisiana, you took the job in late 2010, and you took over a team, 1 winning season in 15 years. You took over a team that went 3-9. You took over a team that really was trying to find an identity to win. And you come in, you take that same team, and in 1 year, you're 9-4. You're 1 game away from a conference championship. And I remember, I'll never forget it, and I've mentioned it a few times. One of the main things you said at your opening press conference, you said it, and I quote, people have said that this program is like a ticking time bomb, and you wanted to light the fuse. When you take over a program like that is hungry to win but doesn't know how were you able to expedite that process into turning the success so quickly? What did you do to change the perception of the program, and what steps were necessary to doing that coming to Louisiana?
Well, I think one thing that I've always hope people can say about me is I try to bring a lot of energy to whatever I'm doing. And so I just felt like I dove in head first into the community and into our program. And we had some good players. Ricky had recruited well, and he had left us a really good quarterback, a really good tight end. And so we had a few pieces, and I just felt like the opportunity was there, and we knew it was a great community, and it was a lot of untapped resources. And what I meant by that was the untapped resources that were still there that I felt like that we could get into to help turn this thing around. And we came in, we put that same culture in of toughness, discipline. And to be honest with you, that culture that got us turned around and got us to where we won, 4 seasons of 9 games, 4 straight bowl wins. Unfortunately, it was the same culture that sort of slipped at the end. And but that's what got us turned around. We had a hard time with some guys early, and it wasn't for everybody. We had some players leave the program that just was not used to the volume and the expectations that we had for our players every single day. And one cool thing that you probably remember that a lot of people probably either hadn't thought about or don't remember is when we took over in 2011, there was no east-west side of the conference. And, the conference was the conference, and it was Middle Tennessee, Western Kentucky, Florida National, Florida Atlantic, North Texas, a really good Troy team, a great Arkansas State team. It was deep, and it was one tough conference. And so you had to work every single day. If you didn't, you was going to get embarrassed. And, we had some big wins over Mario Cristobal. We had wins over Willie Taggart, Bobby Petrino, Howard Snellenberger. And so some of those things, but that all went back to, it was all relative to the work that we put in every single day with our kids. And it really paid off.
Man, beating Bobby Petrino was fun. Kind of going back to what Jerry alluded to, for so many years, even becoming bowl eligible seemed really completely out of reach for our program. Was there a particular moment in 2011 where you realized how good we could be and the significance of receiving our first bowl bid since 1944?
Well, I'm going to say this, but I'm not saying this because one of my best friends and our offensive coordinator, Kenny Edenfield, is sitting in the room right here with us. He was the offensive coordinator at Troy. Now he's on my staff here at Gulf Shores. But after we was fortunate enough to find a way to win that Troy game at home that year, that's when I felt like, we may have a chance, because they were running the conference. They had won the conference 4 straight years. They were the big dogs in the conference, and they came to Lafayette, and we kicked the onside kick early, got the onside kick, stole the momentum, and ended up winning the game. And that's when I felt like we had a chance.
Coach Hud, we're going to be honoring the 2011 team at Cajun Field this Saturday against Eastern Michigan, and it's really cool to have everybody back. I mean, some of these guys we haven't seen in a decade, and obviously we haven't seen you in a long time. I'm going to ask a few questions about the New Orleans Bowl, because obviously everybody kind of remembers the season, but the culmination of that season is really what stands out in the minds of Cajun fans. And I bet I could still make an argument that win over San Diego State in the Dome can still be considered the signature win for this program. If you get on any of the social platforms and you search Ragin' Cajuns football, you see that first. It's that big of a lasting win. But I am curious, how did you feel personally, honestly? How did you feel going into New Orleans that weekend? The whole lead up, and I know it's like, I don't know, maybe a week-long visit that you're there, if I remember right. But as the coach of the team, did you feel the weight of what was about to take place in that place? And did you expect that crowd? Did you expect that type of game? I'm just curious about how were the emotions on the sideline as everything was going on, and also the lead up.
It was an emotional season. And if you think about how the season went, going back to what I talked about, how I felt like we really instilled a great culture of discipline, because, we won the close game against Monroe with the onside kick. We kicked the last second field goal to beat Florida Atlantic. The fine, minute details we were able to do all year long to get to that bowl game. And every game, the crowds got bigger at Cajun Field. And as we started to win, the fans' expectations really started to shift. And now they started expecting to win, and they loved seeing this success we were having. So now we get that bowl invitation. We get it to the best possible bowl. The Rose Bowl couldn't have been no better than year one than going to the New Orleans Bowl, just because it was a home game for us. And so once we got there, the expectations now, it's shifted from getting to a bowl to now, Coach, we've got there. We got to win this thing. And just what a week. I mean, our fans, they didn't just come to the game. They spent the week with us there on Bourbon Street and on Canal. And what a great experience, I think, for everybody involved. And I tell you, it was our team was confident, though. Our team was really confident. Blaine Gaucher, Peanut, those guys were confident, and they knew that the work they had put in was going to pay off. And we had a great week, and in the game, we played well. And here's another example of how the little things paid off, just like they had all year long. We led the whole game, and if you remember, they scored with about a minute to go in the game, and let the air out of the dome. And but sure enough, we come back and got a quick strike, and then we said, hey, we got a chance to go ahead and try to win it. Got in field goal range, really executed the 2-minute offense to perfection, got the quick out route to cut it a little bit closer, and then Brett walks up there and hits a walk-off grand slam. And what an event. That's still my greatest memory of my life, is that the Superdome. And you can Google or YouTube the fans from UL filming in the stands and how emotional everybody's screaming, crying, dancing. It was an unbelievable, probably 30-minute event once Brett made the field goal.
Yeah, you're
The
getting
day that we all learned what disconcerting signals was.
Stemming. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a stemming penalty since.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Thankfully, it was on our side, though.
Destiny was on our side. We were so due, not only to get to a bowl, to win a bowl. And it just, there in the Superdome with their fans and the way the season had gone, winning so many close games, the expectations, the fan following, the crowds were unreal at Cajun Field. And it was just, we wanted, and my motto when I got there, when I told them, I said, guys, the big time is where you're at. And sometimes I felt like as UL fans, we were afraid to show our colors because we felt like the blue and gold were overshadowing us. I said, no, let's show them. Let's be who we are. Let's be proud of who we are. And now look what it has done. It has totally shifted. And UL now, owns Lafayette and owns Acadiana. And so it was just a great first season. You couldn't have written season one, I don't think, any better.
So, Coach, moving on from 2011, one of my favorite moments, I think, of being associated with the program was being on the field announcing one of the spring games. And if you remember, you brought back Jake Delhomme, Jerry Babb, Dez, Brian Mitchell. I still have his autograph sitting in my man cave, and Peanut. And there were a few others there. And you really seemed during your tenure to put a focus on welcoming former players back to the program and really showcasing our history of producing very talented players. How important do you think that was to our success during that period?
Well, I think, you look at the guys that laid the foundation. Every one of those guys laid the foundation and had so much success. And I can't remember if that was the year we had the passing competition at halftime of the spring game. And I think it came down to Jake and Blaine Gaucher was the quarterback, I think, for the championship. But, I loved our current players getting to know the past players. And those guys were always eager to come back, give back, be a part of the program. Jake was kind enough to be around all the time. But we had so many former players that came back, and it was really that I enjoyed that part. That was a fun time.
Yeah, and you kind of alluded to my next question was bringing back the alumni really targeted as part of a marketing strategy with the fans, or was it more for the players to see what kind of success they could have?
I think both. I think you fans love seeing the former players, and I hope a little bit, maybe the former coaches. But they love seeing the former players coming back, and because those are the players they cheered for, man. They rooted for, and some little kids grew up idolizing them. Now they're older, and now they see a Peanut walking through the stadium, and that even enhances the experience. And so I thought it was great for our players. I thought it was great for our fans, great for our UL community and our campus. And it was just that's always a special time.
Coach, talking about attendance, that 2011 season, I think we averaged just under 30,000 a game, which ironically, I think that's still the record as far as average home attendance to this day. and in Cajun Field history. During that 2011 to 2014 run, during those 9-4 seasons, 4 straight New Orleans Bowls, I mean, we were drawing some good crowds, anywhere from 20 to 30,000. Some went over 30,000.
Yeah.
What did you, besides, it's one thing to have success on the field. That's going to draw fans. But what other steps were taking, whether it was from you, the administration, marketing team, that drew people to Cajun Field? And today, you see ESPN3, you see the different streams where sometimes people may say, I'm just going to watch the game from my couch. I'll pay the $10 a month. I'll watch it at home. In your opinion, what's, besides winning, a good way to get people to go to the game and fill the stadium like they did during that 4-year run?
Well, if Ragin Cajun fans can say anything about Coach Hud, this was one thing I hope they would say and feel good about is I was out in the community. That's one thing I really felt like I did. And I enjoyed every minute of it. We got out in the community, me and my wife, and we made so many friends in the community, brought them into our program. And, look at Brian Hanks. Brian wasn't really even involved too much until we got Brian back into the program. And now look what he's done for the program. Man, what a guy, So we've just, every luncheon that I could be at, I think I've got an honorary seat at the Petroleum Club. I've had so many chicken lunches there, but not just there, but around Acadiana, everywhere from Youngsville, you just name it. I'm there, encouraging people to get involved and be proud of who we are, be proud of our culture, be proud of our university, and it just, what? A lot of times, all it takes is someone just inviting you. That's all it takes. People just want to be invited. And I love doing that. And I really felt like that was one of the biggest reasons that our crowds grew, because, you invite a family, then they come have a great time. They invite another family. And before you know it, you got something special. So I hope they realize it and can say that Coach Hud really cared about the community. He was out, always present, always approachable, and made everybody feel good when they came up and said hello to Coach Hud.
Jerry, I have a quick follow-up real quick.
Sure.
Mark, what do you think about, so obviously you did something differently than your predecessor. And I know Ricky was from the East Coast somewhere. I think he's from Virginia, maybe.
Carolinas.
And you're originally from Mississippi, correct?
Correct.
So why do you think that our locals didn't recognize the opportunity then, and I would say to some degree now as well, that when you go and sell the identity, you go and sell the part about the program that represents the community, and that's not a cliche in my view. Why do you think it's lost on the locals to go and sell the program themselves? You have any comment on that?
I just think that one thing, and I don't know if it's a comment, but I think that I think they want to feel a part of being a part, and I tried to make everybody feel like they had a role. We got so many people invested in our program. We was able to start the Cajun Air Force, and people had a role in the program. They felt like they were much more than just a fan, just because if you take, for example, I would go see the local, let's say the local team here in Pensacola's minor league baseball team. I'm not even a huge baseball fan, but if I knew the head coach personally and knew a little bit about their coaching staff and I knew them, man, I would want to just go support them because I know them and they're friends of mine. And that's, to me, I hope had a lot to do with that, because I think a lot of people in the community felt like they knew me personally, and they felt like that they had something they could give to our program. And I asked a lot of our fans, and they always stepped up. And the relationships, I felt like that but as the time I was there, that we established and created is the same relationships that helped start the interest to bowl in the stadium, to get the new Jumbotron, to build the Montclair indoor facility. Those are all relationship-based ideas that came together, and people that felt a part of the program wanted to give and wanted to help. And so many people stepped up and contributed time, finances, you name it. And but I really hope it's because they felt like they were my friend, and they knew that they could pick up the phone and call me anytime. And I just love being accessible. That was probably my favorite Oxford College stop I've ever had. And to this day, still, me and my family, we still miss and love Lafayette for sure.
You know, adding to that, I think that's one thing that a lot of our fans remember you by, at least how I remember you by, is you did a fantastic job spreading the brand, the Ragin' Cajun brand. I mean, during your tenure at UL, the success added on to the national perception of who we were as a program. Before, we were kind of an afterthought, and then all of a sudden you start winning a few bowl games and you start getting some votes in the top 25 and everybody knows you. It's amazing how fast that works, right, Coach? But with that, since you've left Lafayette, you had a stay at Mississippi State. You were in Starkville for a little while. Then you went to Clarksville, Tennessee, at Austin Peay. Now you're in Gulf Shores. Through your travels over the last few years, what's the reception you get as far as the Ragin' Cajun brand? Do people know who we are? Do you get in conversations with people about the Cajuns? What is the perception from your experiences since you've left Lafayette, and has it grown?
It probably has. You know, I was very fortunate to be there for 7 years, and you know, the shelf life for coaches is not real long. In 7 years. 7 years, I would say, is in these days and times. 7 years is a pretty good stretch. And but just for example, this summer, I'm out on the beach with our family, walking down the beach, and all of a sudden this couple comes up and, you know, hey, Coach Hud. I'm just like, I know I didn't have anything on Ragin' Cajun, and I'll say this, yeah, it sort of made you feel good, especially because they had a couple of good things to say. You know, those things happen quite often, because I'll say this, a lot of people from Lafayette and Louisiana come to Gulf Shores to vacation. And so we see the Ragin' Cajun bumper stickers and tags all the time. And there'll be times, there has been a few times I've sat beside somebody at a restaurant or somewhere, and they got a Ragin' Cajun shirt on. I ask them about, how much are Ragin' Cajuns? They recognize me. And so we just have a little conversation about the season and maybe a little bit about the past, and that's always a little bit fun too. And then something will click and they catch on, and we have a great conversation.
That's awesome, Coach. During your tenure, there was a very polarizing political climate, and with that came social unrest, the feeling that people were empowered to say what was on their mind and talk about their political differences publicly on social media. And I know that you had teachable moments with players who may not have kept things in the locker room, or maybe didn't necessarily share those same political views with the majority of our fan base. These types of situations continue to happen in the college sports world. As a head coach today, what have you learned from these types of situations, and how is this addressed with players in our current environment?
Yeah, you know, if there was, you know, you look back at your tenure and you say, would you change anything or do anything different? There's so many things I wouldn't change, but boy, if there's one thing you could take back, it would be the locker room incident that happened that caused so much, you know, tension and unrest, and it was such a teachable moment, and it was really when all that stuff really started beginning. And we was really on the front end of it, unfortunately, and it was a hard lesson to stomach. And I'm hoping that obviously through our experience, a lot of other programs learned a lesson. You know, it starts with education. You've got to educate your players, and not only to make good decisions, and not only you need to educate them about, you know, the political scene, but also how to behave. Not try to force their political views on either side. I mean, fortunately enough, you know, we've had so many brave men and women that's given their lives for us to have freedom of choice, and that's their choice. But to act the way we acted in the locker room and to use some of the things that we used, that was obviously a very learning moment, a disappointing moment, and you know, ultimately, and I get it, led to the end of the road for me, and I totally get it. I felt like if that had never happened with the teams we had coming back and the players we had returning, maybe these last 4 years would have been our best 4 years. But I totally get it. And when me and Brian met, I shook his hand and I just thanked him for the opportunity. And but you've got to educate these young men. And I guess the thing that hurt the most, me personally, was the fact that I think some of the people in Acadiana felt like I may have shared the same views, which was obviously they came to realize that was couldn't be further from the truth. And but a teachable moment for some young men and for our program. It was a tough time, something that I always regret that happened. But hopefully we're all better for it. And, and we've definitely taken steps where that definitely wouldn't ever happen again.
Things have changed a lot since then in Lafayette and on the national scape. And you mentioned that, you felt like that was pretty much the end of the tenure. Do you feel like that locker room instance, understanding the loyalty of the culture that we live in, do you feel like that being the end of your road, but do you think that it also impacted the way fans look at the program now and maybe part of the reason why some have not come back?
No, I don't know if that's the case. I just know obviously they were disappointed, and probably more disappointed in me that through my leadership I allowed that to happen. And that was a lesson learned, that you take things for granted. Our first 4 years, I was all about building culture, building toughness, building discipline. And I felt like the last 3 years, I probably lost a little focus on building culture. It's more about building buildings, building indoors and facilities and things like that. And if you're not careful, you take your eye off the ball. And the ball is your players. The ball is how they're developing, not only physically through your workouts, but how they're developing academically, how they're developing socially, behaviorally, all those things. And so probably took my eye off the ball because we had too many things going, and I was trying to maybe grow the program too fast. And the number one thing is your players. And like I said, I know they've even had, you see it across the country, and obviously when you're winning at a high level, if we were winning 10 games at that time, probably people would have overlooked it a little more. Probably like, with the march, I think the players had a few years ago down to the police station. Luckily, you're winning at a high level, and maybe everybody doesn't look at it quite the same. But when you're 5 and 6, and that happens, that's always a good excuse to have a change in tenure. And like I said, I totally get it. Wish I could have gone back and done it different, because I certainly would have. But lesson learned, and we're all hopefully better for it.
Coach, going back to laying down the foundation for the success that we've had in the last couple of years, we go back and we look at Coach Bustle laying the foundation for you. And we kind of look at it the same way with Coach Napier. You really laid the foundation for him and the success over the past few years. I've got to think, do you feel some ownership with the success that we've had over the last few years? Does that make you kind of like a proud parent looking at his kid all grown up and doing great things? Is that kind of how you feel about the last few years of our success?
Well, I guess one way you look at it is this, and I'm probably being a little more funny than serious, but I feel like the football team is got adopted. They got adopted away from me, or changed custody. They changed custody. Now they're living with the other parent, and they're really performing at a high level. They're doing great. The other parents doing a great job raising them and developing them, but you're still proud, of your kid, even though he's with the other parent. I don't know if that's a good analogy or not, but all those kids, that are now in the NFL. I will say this, the last 2 years, or the year before we got let go, we made it to a bowl game. If we'd have beat Southern Miss in the bowl game, and then we were one game away from getting bowl eligible, that next year maybe could have squeaked out enough time to develop the players that we had recruited to turn it around and get back to that high level again, but we didn't. But I still felt like we left a good foundation, like you mentioned. We left an incredible football facility that was, I think, one of the best in in the country, but especially in the group of five. And then we left some outstanding players. You know, we left a quarterback, I think was a 4-year starter for you guys, who was a half-year starter for us. We recruited with Eli and Levi. And then 3 great running backs that are all in the NFL, 2 offensive linemen that are in the NFL, a couple of wide receivers that are in the NFL. So, you know, all those guys we recruited, we signed, we even coached for 1 to 2 years. And so you felt like you laid a good foundation. But then Billy came in and did a phenomenal job of taking what we had done into a whole nother level. And he, I think, did it the right way. You know, he sort of, you know, obviously used the Saban model, which is tried and true. And got to give him a lot of credit. And I think he's an outstanding coach. And he was very gracious to me through the transition, and reached out and told me that I'd done a good job, and, you know, and was super nice. And I have all the respect in the world for Billy and Coach Napier, and even for Brian Maggard, how he handled me in the process, and Dr. Savoy. I felt like, to be honest with you, and sometimes I'm too emotional. I felt like Dr. Savoy and Dr. Maggard were my friends, and I felt like that they didn't want to let me go or make a change. But obviously that's their job, and they got to do what's best for the program. But I consider them my friends, because we, you know, you work so close with some people every single day. That's the relationship part that I love about athletics, about college football. And it was just a special time, you know, relationships I had with Scott Farmer for 6 years when we didn't have a lot of money. And we were winning with not much, and he's having to just be creative with some of the things he did to give us the things that we had. And so it was so many people that we had such a good relationship with, and still miss them to this day. I love seeing them. Hope I get to see a lot of those faces this Saturday.
You know, one of the things, Coach, you mentioned, I remember when you first took over, was big time. That was your motto, big time. Everything's got to be big time. And it's a way to live when you run a program like UL's. But, you know, one of the parts of the foundation, I think you said as a fan, was you kind of ran the program like an SEC school or a P5, just from the presentation point of view. You know, you remodeled the building, you have certain way of presenting things that felt big time. Well, you passed, you know, of course, the torch was passed to Billy Napier. He took it to a certain level. Now, one of your former assistants, former Ragin Cajun himself, Mike Desormeaux, is now the head coach. And of course, I'm sure, well, first of all, do you still keep in touch with Coach Des? And really, what are your expectations for him taking over this program and running it as the head coach of the Louisiana football team?
Well, first, let me say, I don't think that Dr. Maggard and Dr. Savoy could have made a better decision than hiring Mike Des. And what a great person. And I knew that as I had a chance to get to know him through recruiting. And obviously when I hired him to come onto my staff, and he just did a phenomenal job. And, you know, he at Ascension, you know, his team's always won. There's always well prepared. But not only was he a good coach, I mean, he is Ragin Cajun personified. You know, I just think he's going to do great things. He's passionate about the place, like I was. I felt like I was an adopted Ragin Cajun, where he is a true Ragin Cajun. And I just think he's going to do great. It's sort of neat that 2 of my former assistant coaches at UL are now both head coaches in the Sun Belt. Will Hall at Southern Miss and Mike Desormeaux at UL. And proud of both of those guys. But Mike Desormeaux he's going to do a great job. And he's been in our program. He saw the things that worked, didn't work, and he's been with Billy, and obviously the things that led to their success. And he'll do a great job.
Coach Hud, really appreciate your time. You've been gracious. I'll leave you with this. I know our friends over at Ragin Cajun will like to hear this question. So if you have any parting shots for the wonderful posters on Ragin Cajun, here's your opportunity. Let's hear it.
I'd say this: the first 4 years, probably the first 4.5. You know, the after we had the first 4 really good 9-win seasons, 4 bowl wins. That next season, you know, we lost our quarterback. We we dropped a little bit. But I think everybody felt like, hey, we're going to bounce back. So they went too hard on me. But they were very gracious the first 4 years. I mean, they're singing your praises, and so you got to take the good with the good and the bad with the bad. I will say this: I think they are passionate. I think they love the Ragin Cajuns. I think they love Ragin Cajun football, and they love feeling a part of it. And I think that's their way to be a part. And I think they create a lot of excitement for the Cajuns. And yeah, a little tough on me there toward the end, but you know what? that's just athletics in general. I didn't take any of it really personally, because I don't think they wanted any harm to come to me or my family. I just think they were saying how they were disappointed on how some of the things were going. And you know what? Rightfully so in a lot of areas. But I will say this: when I saw him out, I always tried to be friendly. Even I can't even remember the one. I even really invited him to come to the football facility and tour around. Kids to practice, and I wanted him to see that we don't just sit on our hands all day. We're actually really working, turn this program back to where it was, and do a good job. And it ain't easy winning every single year, because everybody wants to win. Every team wants to win every game. Every Ragin Cajun group, every school wants to win every game. And but they were good to me when times were good. A little tough when times were not. But it's all good now. I'd love to see some of those guys. I don't have any hard feelings, I promise you that.
Luke. Well, Coach Hud, listen, I really appreciated the practices and all the fun, the beers over at Pete's. That was a good time.
That was a good time.
That was a good time, man. And look, it's been a decade almost, so it feels like a lifetime ago. But honestly, truly, sincerely, I am happy for your success, your continued success. Obviously, you got a powerhouse over there in Alabama. You got like 10 D1 head coaches on your staff. So I hope you guys keep winning. High school football is basically the core of teaching football. I mean, that is about as bare bones as it gets. So it looks like you're happy. You look great. Thanks for joining us, boys. You want to say bye to Coach Hud?
Coach, it's so great to see you again, and best of luck at Gulf Shores. Hey, bring a state championship down to the coast. I think they're due for one.
Tell your mom, dad I said hello.
I will do. Thank you, Coach.
Coach, still looking big time, baby.
Try to. And guys, hey, I'm gonna be there Saturday, probably around 4:30, 4:45 at the tailgate. And then obviously I want to go watch Coach Des, see the team play, and obviously I'm still close friends with George Munoz and those guys. So I'm gonna be pulling hard for the Vermilion and White. Look forward to seeing all the fans. I hope that they'll have a warm reception, because I really, really love my time there. I love the Ragin.
We expect it. Coach Hud, see you Saturday. Thanks, man.
Take care.
Thanks, Coach.